Hi everyone, we are today by Vedant. He is GMAT success story, special users and improved his GMAT by 340. So I'm going to take it here. I'm going to ask him GMAT journey. Meanwhile, if you have any, please feel free to post on the comments and away. Over to you, Vedant.
Okay, hi, I am Vedant and I'm from Calcutta in India. And first off, from India, so I'm a non-native English speaker. So, how did I get my verbal right in the first place? To start with, I read a lot of newspapers and I watch a lot of films. So, before my GMAT journey even began, I already had a few basics in place. But there's one very important thing that you need to remember with your verbal journey. I'll come to quants later in case any of you have any questions with regards to quants. But at least with verbal, and this is something that everyone who's taken the GMAT, even the GMAT tutors, and the GMAT club in general will tell you is that do not ever go with what sounds right, because the GMAT is a test that is primarily designed to trick you. I mean, trick you in the sense that all you need really is to get the basics right. If your basics are in place, I'm sure that it's not difficult for someone to score something above a 700 or probably even a 750. It's really not difficult. So I think that is okay. And again, even though like Indians are probably viewed in the sense that probably their quant skills are much better than their verbal skills, verbal aptitude skills. For me, my quant skills were a little weak, but my verbal game was always on point. At least I'd like to believe that, and I just needed a little brushing up here and there. So again, if your verbal skills aren't so good, probably you'll need a different strategy, and I can definitely help you out with a new strategy if you reach out to me on PM or mail or whatever. But otherwise, I think I can share some tips from my strategy in general. Shovik, can I start like with my strategy?
Yeah, go ahead for sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, so again, the first tip that I have for each and everyone taking the GMAT is do not go with what just sounds right. Uh, Now breaking it into three parts, that is SC, that's sentence correction, CR, that's critical reasoning, and RC. We start off with sentence correction because that was my absolute favorite. A SC, at least for me, it was like a holiday. Even during my real GMAT, although I did miss one question of sentence correction in the end, which is why I ended up with a 700 and not a 740. That is a verbal 37. I missed one question and I have no regrets because I know I really put in my hard work. So with SC, everyone will continuously go on and on about one thing which is fabulous. That is the Manhattan sentence correction guide. Again, I have nothing new to add there with regards to the Manhattan guide, because if you very carefully comb through each and everything that's there in the Manhattan guide, the different tricks and the different things that are mentioned there, you will most definitely get everything right on the sentence correction section. Again, sentence correction is also the most tricky because this is the part where everything sounds right. Like we all, like everyone like on this planet is accustomed to a very colloquial form of English, so to speak. We are the kind of people who talk in a very colloquial manner, and again, it's not wrong, so to speak, but again, it's not right for the GMAT. And right now, the task at hand is to get everything right on the GMAT. So we do say stuff like being there, he did X. Again, there are a few things that are just very essential on the GMAT. Like GMAT, on the GMAT, anything that ends with an ing is never right. It may sound right, it may feel right, you may think that is your calling, etc., 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 but trust me, that's not. Anything, mostly 99% of the things with an ing aren't right. Most of the things, most of the sentences which have which, again, I'm saying too many whiches here, but most of the sentences which have a which probably aren't right, because the GMAT has a funny rule with regards to which. And then there are a number of rules with regards to like and as, that, will and would. So it's really essential to get all of these basics right. Once you get the basics right, the game will be really, really easy for you, and 50% of your task is done there. Again, with regards to sentence correction, it is absolutely most essential to practice sentences each day, because these tricks, again, only you'll realize, by the time you reach the end of your preparation, you will not require all of the tricks that are there in the book, but knowledge of all of these tricks is really essential. And you need to really, really practice sentences each day. For me, okay, I'll get to my bit of the preparation later. I'll just give you a few strategies. So as I said, it's really essential to practice sentences each and every single day. Say about 50 to 60 sentences, because you need to be in the groove throughout. Like, if you think you can do the basics now, wait for 3 weeks, and then do the strategies, you will have a really difficult time, because it is really difficult to retain all of those concepts. Again, this is the theory called the colloquial English theory, which is what we practice on a daily basis, all day. So I guess it's really essential to practice then. As for what I did, with me, there's a thing in general, like, I need to make sure that I practice as much as I can. It's just, if you'd like to call it a flaw, probably it is a flaw, but again, that technique is what works for me. So I had endless material. The GMAT Club is actually the place for each and every GMAT test taker, because you'll find endless content there. I found a document which had 1,000 sentences. I had a couple of documents which had 200 sentences. I had a couple of documents which had about 50 to 30 sentences. Again, I was ready to share all of these documents, but some of them are under copyright, and of course, the makers do not want me to be sharing all of these documents, so I will not be able to do it on my own. Copyright. Again, if you go through the entire club very, very meticulously, I took one day off, like the day I was supposed to start off with my round 2 prep. I took one entire day off to find as much content as possible, and I got everything I needed. Like, the amount of content that's there on the club is endless. After my first attempt, I said to myself, Vedant, where else will you practice from? Because I apparently thought I had done everything that there was to be done. But before round 2, when I actually sat down to look for stuff, there was a point when I got frustrated. I said to myself, I cannot look any further, because I knew that I will not be able to solve any more than this. Again, if you take one day off and if you look for content, quant as well as verbal, you'll find everything you need. Trust me on that. So for me, it was endless. I made it a point to do about 15 days of solid verbal. I never thought I needed a lot of help for my verbal, because again, like, I was always kind of confident. So I took about 15 straight days off for verbal. I had the concepts in place, luckily, because again, like, I read a lot of books and newspapers and movies, etc., etc., etc. So those 15 days really helped me. Like, I was solving around about 100 sums a day. Again, whatever I'm talking about is for my round 2 prep only. For my round 1, on which I scored a 640, I had a slightly different preparation. Back then, I was a little overconfident, as I said, because I always thought, my verbal is sorted, but my quant game isn't so good. So I was really overconfident then. Even though I was overconfident, I had practiced. Not as much as I would have liked to practice, but yes, I did practice a lot. One strategy that is really essential for all of GMAT, and something that I ignored during my first attempt prep because I was really swamped. I had my internship going on, I had exams, I had this, I had that. I was basically doing everything all at once. Do not do that with your GMAT prep. Again, not to be digressing from the topic and coming back to SC and GMAT in general, make sure that you have an error log. And even if you do not have a very comprehensive error log, at least make sure that you know all your problem areas and you note them out, note them down, like, so that right before the test, about 2-3 days before the test, all you need to do is go through the stuff that's there in your notes. Like, I had some stuff, I'll just show them to you. Give me a second, please. Okay, I'm back. So I had this notebook which I called my verbal notebook. I made it a point to note down everything that I saw here, there, everywhere. So if you look very closely, the camera, if the video quality isn't too bad, it says sentence correction October 16. So whenever I was decoding the sentences on the the different exercises here and there, I would make sure that if there was a sentence that I went wrong with, I noted it down, and the main area, the main problem area, as well as an example along with that. So this really helped me. Like 2 days before the test, I made it a point to not go through a single new problem on sentence correction. Instead, I just went through the stuff that I'd already done. And that is something that really helped me. That again, I'll come back to this later with regards to general GMAT strategy, but just about verbal, that's there. Moving ahead, we've got critical reasoning. Critical reasoning, see, so sentence correction, as I said, at least for me, it was more like a holiday kind of a thing, because it's really, sentence correction really calms your mind. uh, you just feel good because they're kind of short, they don't take so much of time, it's not really difficult to get them right as compared to a CR and an RC, at least for me. So SC, so to speak, was kind of therapeutic for me, but CR really needed me to apply my mind in ways I never thought, like, right before my first attempt. So there was this one particular doc which is called 7 to 800 level CR, and like when I saw that doc after my just before my first attempt, I was really scared because the kind of stuff that was there was really difficult, and I did not know how to go ahead with CR then. One of the biggest flaws that I had in my verbal preparation right before my first attempt was I never really took the time to go through the basics of critical reasoning. That's really essential. Do not be too overconfident about it. Again, from the looks of it, CR feels like, basic logical reasoning. Like anyone who has a sane mind and probably some sense of logic will be able to decode CR. That is the kind of a logic I had. But in CR, there are a few things that you just need to, like, understand. And that you'd get only by reading the basics. So when you read the basics, again, so the book that I would suggest is Power Score CR Bible. That's hands down the best things that you can get your hand on for your CR prep. There are a couple of posts on GMAT Club as well, which summarize everything that's there in the CR in the Power Score CR Bible. That's really good as well. You can go ahead with either you take the entire book, or the notes that are there on the GMAT Club post. Either would work wonders, but just get all the basics right. So when you go through stuff on the in the journal there, in the book there, you'll realize that there are a few tricky things that you probably will never be able to spot while you're practicing, or probably taking your mocks, or on the real GMAT day, if you hadn't read them there. So I have an example noted down here. So there are some questions which says like, so how are these two things causally related, or like, probably how does this least weaken, or how does this least strengthen? There's a very fine line which is there between a least strengthen and a weaken. Like something that least strengthens can be a very neutral sentence as well. So all of these are the finer things that you need to understand while you're prepping for your CR. And that's really essential. There will be some questions which will be absolute bouncers. And if you ever get your hands on that 7 to 800 level CR questions doc, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because the first time I ever scored a really good, mock score right before my first attempt, I thought, okay, I'm good to go. Now let's do the difficult stuff. And that really, chopped my wings off, because I was really scared after I started solving CR from there, because that was really difficult. And I'd suggest that you do all the difficult stuff right in the middle, but not towards the end, because towards the end, all you need is a very great morale boost. And solving the difficult stuff in the end does not make you a champion in any right, in any sense of the word whatsoever. Solve the difficult stuff in between, review the difficult stuff in the end, or like, just end it off with something that's probably like, a sub 700 but 650 plus level question bank. Do not go beyond that. As for my CR prep, I had this doc which was a thousand CR doc. It had CR questions as well as LSAT questions, GMAT questions as well as LSAT questions. It's really essential that you find the difference between a GMAT question and an LSAT question. Do not start off with unverified sources at the very onset, because that will be detrimental to your preparation, because the LSAT questions have a different format altogether, at least in say 20 to 30% of the questions. So even though you may think that by solving the LSAT questions you're solving the difficult ones, no, that strategy does not work, because after all, you're just taking the GMAT. So why do you want to equip yourself with something that's probably of a higher level and a different category and a different genre altogether? Do not do that to yourself. It'll probably be the end of you, at least with regards to GMAT. So my very honest suggestion, do not do it from there. Again, something that I forgot to mention in the SC section, and that holds true for SC, CR as well as RC, is that go through the official guides very, very carefully. The official guides and the verbal review. Official guide, sorry, not the official guides, but the official guide and the verbal review. That's really essential, because to start with, get something that's right, that's designed by the makers of the test. That will really help you to understand what a real GMAT question is like. And because these are all retired GMAT questions, you'll probably be in a much better space to assess yourself. I'm not saying that these questions are the most difficult ones on the block. I still feel that the OG questions are not the best questions that are there for your GMAT practice, and the OG is not an end means in itself. You need more stuff, but to start with, the OG is really essential, because that is the only place where you'll get verified material, uh, which is really easily accessible. Of course, in case you do end up purchasing different courses like by eGMAT or Magoosh or whatever, I think then you're sorted as well. But I really suggest start off with the OG, because this is really directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So that will really, really help you. Uh, the most essential part of my verbal preparation, and I don't think my GMAT journey would have ever been complete without my RC prep. So when I started off with RC, in fact, I never really decided to start off with RC, because I just gave up in the very beginning itself, thinking that I will never be able to sit through a long RC passage and solve all those questions there, because I'm a very restless human being. Like, I think you probably figured out by now that I just keep talking. I do not even pause for breath. So I think RC was probably never my cup of tea. And I thought that if I probably, like get about 4 RC questions, I'll try my best. And if I cannot solve them, I'll end up with a sub 700 score, and I'll be done and dusted with GMAT for life. That is the worst approach you can probably, start off with. But that was my approach towards the middle of my preparation. This is round 2. Because I was anyway too disillusioned with life in general after my round 1. Because I said GMAT, on the GMAT, it's really not possible for someone to get a sub 700 score, because GMAT is a lot to do with your general logic. And once you score something which is below 700, I think you start doubting your capabilities. Very wrong thing to do. Again, general GMAT strategy right after I complete my verbal section strategy. So with RC, I read a few passages on day 1, and there were about 5 to 6 passages that I read on the trot. And after reading the third passage, I said to myself, I'm actually having fun reading these passages. So I said, okay, let's try it this way. Instead of treating it like my GMAT prep, I can probably just use it to get new information and feed my brain with some really enriching knowledge and nourish my mind. Like, that is the kind of a mindset I went ahead with. And for some odd reason, or some great and some fantastic reason, I started having fun with RC. So right before my round 1, I tried my best to solve 10 RCs a day. I would probably end up with 3 to 4, maximum 5 RCs, because I would be drained, because I had the wrong approach in mind. And you can have a different approach for CR, you can have a different approach for SC, completely up to you. But for RC, you can take my word for it. This is the only and only approach that can help you, because RC is by far the most difficult section on all of GMAT. After you will have completed, the first 30 minutes with AWA, and then another 30 minutes with your IR, and then another 1.5 hours with quants, it's really difficult to retain your attention there. Like, you just not know why you're solving these passages. Like, there's kind of an existential crisis that you experience when you come to the RCs. So that's really difficult. But if you go ahead with the right approach, I assure you it's not difficult to get your accuracy on point. Before my first attempt, my accuracy was somewhere hovering about 50 to around 50 to 60%. Before my second attempt, I was getting an accuracy rate of anything between 80 to 100%. It was mostly towards the late 80s, because the material that I was solving, there's this entire RC, collection. It's got about 117 RCs. Fantastic collection. Like, I solved the RCs only from there. Now, I would wholeheartedly recommend the Aristotle prep for SC, because I feel it's the most underrated, book for your SC prep. Manhattan is there, yes, but for SC, if you go ahead with your with the Aristotle journal and even the GMAT Club journal that's there, it'll be fantastic, because I feel Manhattan has a lot of fluff, but Aristotle has got no fluff whatsoever. So for your SC prep, if you go ahead with only Aristotle and not Manhattan, I think you're good to go as well. I solved it, like, I went through both the journals, so I'm in a very good position to comment. If you solve only Aristotle, like, Aristotle's got about 100 questions as well. I solved them about twice. So if you go through only the Aristotle questions for SC, I think it's perfect. But if you do choose to go through Manhattan as well, I think I mean they're easily replaceable my preference would go a little towards Aristotle, because Aristotle has got some really fantastic questions, as well as the material is not really scattered. So it's really easy to, navigate as compared to the Manhattan Guide. But you can choose either. But there's some sections who also, recommend the Aristotle book for your RC preparation. That book is called RC 99. So the primary reason why why I was hating RC altogether was because before my first attempt I tried to solve a few RCs from Aristotle. I solved about two of them. I knew it wasn't my cup of tea. Like, that is the kind of a demotivation demotivated bout I had right before my first attempt, because I saw the Aristotle book. And then right before my second attempt, on the 1st of October, I very distinctly remember I opened the Aristotle doc, and I said to myself, fine, like, starting today from the 1st of October, I'll not prep for SC or CR, but along with my quant prep, I'll just do RC, because I felt RC was like not my forte. And when I started doing it from there, I solved two passages, and I knew that I will flunk if there's an entire question bank just from RC. So it wasn't really good motivation, so to speak. So I said to myself, fine, like, I'll just look for some other sources. But I already had this document which had the 117 RCs, as I said. And I think that was a game changer. That was a life changer, because and then I left RC for, like, 15 days straight. I said RC is not my cup of tea. That was the kind of demotivation I got because of the Aristotle RC book. And then on the 16th or something, I said, fine, like, I have to do RC. I mean, it's really essential to my prep if I want a 700 score. I mean, as demotivated as I was, getting 700 plus has always, like, been there at the back of my mind. And I started solving the RC questions from there. And after 3 or 4 RCs, I felt uh, I was pretty happy. I was pretty content, because I was getting new knowledge. Okay, so really important point about the RCs: the GMAT will never give you RC passages that aren't really true, or they aren't facts. They're all facts. Like, whatever's given on the GMAT is whatever's presented on the GMAT is all factual. There's nothing make believe. So you actually get to learn so much. Like, now I can actually, very honestly, very truthfully say that I know a lot about the entire, racial prejudice in America, or probably the status of women in America, or about animals in Indonesia. There's this passage I got on my GMAT as well, with about elephants in Indonesia. So it was a very enriching experience altogether. And once you start loving the RCs, it will not be difficult for you to solve the problems there. With RC, the most important tip after loving the RC is that you need to be very, very specific. If you're someone who tends to answer in a very subjective manner, you really need to get your game up, because I was among the people who were very subjective with their answering, and that is something that does not ever work on the RC. So you need to be really objective. Like, there are some questions which say, what does the passage state? Like, indirectly it will mention that this is what does the passage state. But there are some questions which say what does the passage suggest. Those are all inference questions, and on inference questions you really need to be very, very careful. There's a very fine line between I'm okay there's no example that's coming to my mind right now, but there's a very fine line, say, between die and like, please go die, and how about I kill you. So please go die basically means that it's fun, and it's banter. It's something that two friends say to each other. And go, like, I'll probably kill you, or something that a killer would say to you. I mean, this again for the absolute lack of a better example. So this is the fine line that an RC passage, an RC's question will always tread, and you need to spot that. Once you start loving the RC, you will start combing through the RC very minutely, and that is when eventually, again, it is not possible for any person to have a very great RC game at the very onset. At least I believe so. It will take about a week's time. You'll get accustomed to it. Do not lose hope, like, ever. And if you ever lose hope, just reach out to me on my email or GMAT Club. I can definitely motivate you to kill it with RC. The RC technique that you're supposed to be using is that. So technically you will get about three paragraph long passages, or probably 4 paragraph long passages. Read about 3 lines, and note down the important points on the scratch pad that you got on the actual GMAT, or keep a notebook with you while you're prepping. So I'll just give you an example here. Um, okay, another second, please. Okay, I do not think I can find that copy right away. I just try searching for examples here. Probably have it here, don't worry. Okay, I probably don't. I'm sorry, guys. I don't think I have them. But okay, so that's what you really need to do. Note down the very, very important points. And one thing you need to be very careful about on the RC is that there are a few words which signify that there's a change coming right up. So there'll be a passage about two siblings having fun at a beach, and that'll probably comprise the first three lines of a passage. The fourth line will probably be, however, the two siblings were trying to fish in a pond and a piranha ate them up. Again, for the lack of a better example, but words like however, but, instead, rather, also, these kind of signify a change is coming up in the passage. So when there's a question which probably points at line 62 on a passage, you will have to read the two lines that precede the line and the one line that succeeds the line, that's right after the line. That will give you a great contextual understanding of that particular line, and that is really essential. On the GMAT, it is unlikely that you will get more than 4 questions from an RC passage. But again, when you practice on the document that I just mentioned, the 117 RC passages document, you will probably have about 8 to 9 questions from a particular RC passage. It's all right. Do not freak out. Try spending not more than 9 minutes on an RC question. Like, that should be your upper limit. Uh, okay. So I'll just try wrapping this up. I think just like another 1 minute. Yeah. Uh, Try keeping only 9 minutes for an RC passage. I think that's the upper limit. Anything more than that will probably, make you lose out on time. I spend a lot of time on my RC passages, which is why I think I lost out on answering the last question on my verbal. Okay, I think we can take a few user questions now.
Hi, Vedant. One question that I'm
Yeah,
getting here is
yeah.
like, how much can you really improve given a month, right? So if you have a month to prepare for the
Okay.
test,
Mhm.
realistically, where do you start and how do you think that person can improve?
Okay, this is with regards to verbal only, right?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, very realistically speaking, when you say improve, it basically means that you're trying to work on something that's already there. So, I'm assuming that you have a kind of, you have some knowledge about the basics. So if you have some knowledge about the basics, you can take my word for it that if you're probably verb on a 30, or probably like something around 28 on the verbal section, you will definitely rise to anything around a 35. And it's not impossible, but all you really need to do is practice, practice, practice. It's a cliche, of course, but until and unless you practice adequately, you will never ever be able to understand where you're going wrong and where you're lacking. That's really essential. So when I talk about, say, so I'll just give you my experience. Because I knew I had to practice on a daily basis, I was solving about 80 CR questions, I was solving about 100 SCs, and I was solving about 10 RC. See, if you have a month to take the GMAT, or probably a month and a half, you'll know that this is the final mile. So even if you sacrifice on a little bit of sleep right now, it'll all pay off in the end. So if you end up practicing about 100 STs a day, 80 CR a day, 10 or probably 12 RCs a day, you will eventually, you will become really accustomed to studying for very long hours. You'll be able to study very less restlessly, for the lack of a better word. And yeah, you'd become really patient. And this is all payoff on the final day of the GMAT. Because for me, because I'm really restless, but again, because I had put in about 10 hours of study a day right in the 1 month preceding my GMAT, it really helped me in those 4 hours. Like, I was, I did not really care about, the 4 hours, which seemed like gargantuan. right, around my first attempt. Uh, so I think that about answers your question. 1 month
Thanks,
is
Vedant.
sufficient time. Yeah,
So another question that I got from the forums is that
yeah,
if you're going to spend a limited amount of time on GMAT Verbal, which
yeah.
section do you think is going to be your best bet?
Okay. I am not sure if I can really answer this question really well. Uh, but I think the best bet that you can have on this particular on the verbal section has to be your SC section, because SC is something that you can improve in no time if you get the basics right. RC will take a little bit of time, because if you have limited time, it's really not possible to cram all the basic, because with RC you need some amount of warm up. With CR, again, it'll take some time to be able to decode those very higher level questions, because some of them really test your logic. So I'll just give you an example for the kind of a logical question that is probably asked on the GMAT. There was this one question that I had on my MGMAT mock. I'm sorry if I'm revealing one of those questions here, but I had one of these questions which said that why does this bank have two doors? Is it because of more security, and because there's a less there's a there are fewer policemen right outside the bank, or is it because of the cold? it, I am not exactly, I don't clearly recall the context for this particular question, but I ended up marking because of the lack of security or some such. But it was definitely, the answer was, because of the cold, like the two doors prevent the cold from coming in. So it requires a great deal of logical understanding, which you get only after practicing enough. So if you have limited time, I think decoding SC will be the easiest, and that is your best bet. And trust me on this, your first question is most likely to be an SC. I've seen this on most of my mocks. I've seen this on most of my on both of my GMAT attempts. Your first and your last question will be an SC question. At least I feel so. Uh, Again, I'm not sure if there's 100% truth to this thing, but again, I think SC is your best bet. Yeah,
Okay, so last question for the day. I'll also thanks everyone who posted question on the forum and on YouTube. Last question is, like, how do you balance your prep between verbal content, the new, not new anymore, but the IR section? How
IR
did you see
section.
yourself balancing time?
Okay, I think this will be a little long because it's also the last question, so I'll take my liberty to talk about my GMAT extensively here. Uh, with the IR section, I did not prepare much for my IR section, because IR is just your logical thinking. If you've done your CR well, if you've done your quant, and quant also is just the basics. So if you've done all of that well, you won't really need to do much with your IR section. I'm being really honest here. I did not practice for the IR section right before my GMAT. Strategy that's really essential for your IR section: just know the questions you want to answer and know the questions you want to drop. Like after my IR section, I was pretty convinced that I'll end up with a 3 or a 4, but maximum 4. But I ended up with a 7 because I dropped all the weird looking questions. The only IR practice I ever had was the 6 or the 5 was the 5 MGMAT cats that I had taken. Again, needs a lot of practice with regards to whatever I do, and that is something that just works for me. Probably may not work for you. So for me, what I did was I took 15 days solid for my quant prep, 15 days solid for my verbal prep. And when I was prepping, I was spending a good, 6 to 8 hours a day. And that is how I was balancing everything. But again, if you're someone who thinks you should be doing all of this simultaneously, again, make sure that you, start off with at least, so go topic by topic, and I think that is how you can really balance whatever you're doing. So if you're doing a quant, make sure you complete at least 2 topics of quant in a particular day, and you decode a bare minimum number of SCs, RCs, and CRs in a day, and keep one target that's there, like a quantified target that you have, that you need to solve these many questions. I think that is something that will really get you going, because the farther you feel you are from your target, the more inspired you will be to work towards it. So I think that is really essential. I think my answer has been a bit vague here, because I myself do not really know if I can really answer that question, because it's again the strategy that suits you the best. uh, there have been people who who have prepared only 2 weeks for the GMAT and they've taken it. I just think the kind of magical creatures who've come from some utopian land, that approach probably does not work for everyone. It probably would have never worked for me. I just think, like you need to really balance your time and have a quantific goal in mind. I think that's about it. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
So,
Hi.
okay, so thanks for the very insightful answers, Vedant. Also, guys, he's on GMAT Club. You can always catch him there. So, thanks for joining. We have 21 people currently watching you, so this is really cool.
Okay.
And this video will always be on YouTube forever.
Okay.
So,
I just have, Shobik, I just have a few, tips to give, like right before I
sure,
sign off,
go
if
for
I
it.
can.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. It's just from a very personal experience. I think there are a number of people who take GMAT more than once in a given year. I have a friend who's taken it, who's taking it for the third time, and it's really essential to always remember that even though a score does not define you, it is kind of representative of your abilities to handle the entire situation at hand. So if you ever do not score well on your first attempt, do not get bogged down so much so that you start doubting your capabilities in life in general. That is something that I had done, and that was a very wrong approach. So after my first attempt, I thought to myself, I'm no better than this and I can never do better than this, so I think it's time to just go home and never take GMAT again. That was a very wrong approach. I lacked self belief then. So that is really essential. If you have a dismal first attempt, always remind yourself that there were places that you went wrong with, and that's just 50% of the game there. The other 50% is how you are on that particular day. So this time around, I maintained an error log. And the biggest takeaway that I had from my first attempt was, like staying calm right before my GMAT. So this time I took so I was done with my mocks and everything. I think around the 11th or something. I took, I think 10th. I'm not 9th or 10th of November. I took my GMAT on the 14th. In those few days, I did nothing with regards to GMAT. Like if I had a wedding in the family. I was chilling with my friends. I did everything that I could in the world but GMAT. But it was only on the penultimate day that I just took out my notes. I went through the basics, and that's about it. It's really essential to stay calm, and that'll help you stay focused. When I reached my center, I was chatting with people. I was in a very happy and jovial mood, as compared to my first attempt, where I was so scared that the proctor herself said to me that, Vedant, it's just an exam, chill. So just make sure that you do that. And again, practice is definitely key. And one very, very important thing here is that you take as many cats as possible. I'm sure like a number of people have already said this to you, that cats are really, really important. I'm not stating something new, but this is from my past experience. I took about 3 or 4 cats, and they were never really satisfactory. I never really cared enough to review my cats because I thought I was too cool for that. I never really thought I was too cool for that. I just got really lazy. After 4 hours, it's really not possible to review a cat and then go study. Plus, I was interning then as well, so it was a very wrong time for me to have taken the GMAT. But again, these are just excuses. I believe I could have done much better, and I didn't. I cracked under pressure. Do not do that. Take as many cats as you can. Review them very thoroughly. That's really essential. Give at least a day's gap. I tried to give a day's gap. I took 3 cats on the trot, and then I took a day's gap, and then I took 1 cat, and then I took a day's gap. So that kind of worked for me. Try to take as many gaps as possible, and always remain upbeat. Even though GMAT is the center of all that you do in these few days, or probably 2 months or whatever, just make sure that you're upbeat and there's a life beyond GMAT as well. That will really help. Uh, Confession, I did take coaching for my GMAT, and it did not really help me too much, because GMAT at the end of the day is a test that really tests the skills that you've acquired over the years. So it's also like an inward journey. You need to like you really need to think about the stuff that you already know and just put them to use. And I think that's about it. Even though my 700 could definitely have been a 740, I have no regrets whatsoever, because I was just really happy with the amount of effort that I had put in. And I think that is most essential. Again, your GMAT score will only define so much of your MBA, aspirations and your applications. Beyond that, get working on your essays and everything. And my email ID is vedantkabra@live.com, vedantkabra@live.com. You can always reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to help, because there were a lot of mistakes that I made, and I don't want others to make those mistakes, and I'm more than happy to help you out. You can also reach out to me on GMAT Club. And I think it's been pretty long, and I need some water as well, so I think it's about time to sign off. Shovik, is that good?
Yeah, thank you so much, Vedant. We wish to have you again. We will be doing user videos like these over the next few weeks, so stay tuned on the GMAT Club YouTube channel. And that's it. Great to have you here, man.
GMAT Club